Esi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Vishnupad Paramhamsa Paracharya Stotra Sati Divine Grace Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki
Jai.
Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki
Jai.
Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki Vrindavan Dham ki Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki Jagannath Puri Dham ki Ganga Maya ki Guna Devi ki Shri Tulsi Maharani ki Shri Bhakti Devi ki Harinam Sankirtan ki Vyapudanga Shri Prabhupada Book Distribution ki Namavedha Bhaktivinoda ki
Hare Hare.
Glories to the Samba Devotee.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the Samba Devotee. All glories to the Samba Devotee.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Guru.
All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Guru.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Want to lie down?
No, I'm okay, thanks. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayam udiyayet nashta pradesvabhadrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati tamasloke bhaktirvavati naistaki. So, we are reading from the cream of the crop of Vedic literature, the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 8th canto, chapter 23, text 17. Since Dasara Prabhu spent so much time writing the verse, we're going to have it repeated. Tata pivadato bhuman. Okay, never mind. Because there's no purpose in any of the verses until it gets to this verse. So there's quite a few. We're going to read the rest of the chapter. So I'll just say the first verse. Karishyami anusasanam etakchaya parampungsam yattava jnana nupalanam. Lord Vishnu, I must nonetheless act in obedience to your order, because obeying your order is most auspicious and it is the first duty of everyone. Do you know who's speaking here? Anybody? A guess? Yes, Shukracharya is speaking. Shukra means semen. Shukracharya, the acharya of family life, basically. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Not yet. Pratinandya Hadaragyam Ushana Bhagavaniti Jagya Chidram Samadata Balar Viprarshibi Saha. Sukadeva Goswami continued. In this way, the most powerful Shukracharya accepted the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with full respect. Along with the best Brahmanas, he began to compensate for the discrepancies in the sacrifices performed by Bali Maharaj. I'm going to just read the English. O King Parikshit, thus having taken all the land of Bali Maharaj by begging, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vamanadev, delivered to his brother Indra all the land taken away by Indra's enemy. Lord Brahma, the master of King Daksha and all other Prajapatis, accompanied by all the demigods, the great saintly persons, the inhabitants of Pitriloka, the Manus, the Munis, and such leaders of Daksha, Brigo, and Angira, as well as Kartikeya and Lord Shiva, accepted Lord Vamanadev as the protector of everyone. He did this for the pleasure of Kashyapa Muni and his wife Aditi, and for the welfare of all the inhabitants of the universe, including their various leaders. O King Parikshit, Indra was considered the king of all the universe, but the demigods headed by Lord Brahma wanted Upendra, Lord Vamanadev, as the protector of the Vedas, the principles of religion, fame, opulence, auspiciousness, vows, elevation to higher planetary system, and liberation. Thus they accepted Upendra, Lord Vamanadev, as the supreme master of everything. This decision made all the living entities extremely happy. Thereafter, along with all the leaders of the heavenly planets, Indra, the king of heaven, placed Lord Vamanadev before him, and with the approval of Lord Brahma, brought him to the heavenly planet in a celestial airplane. Indra, the king of heaven, being protected by the arms of Vamanadev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus regained his rule over 3 worlds and was reinstated in his own position, supremely opulent, fearless, and fully satisfied. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Kartikeya, the great sage Brigu, other saintly persons, the inhabitants of Pitriloka, and all other living entities present, including the inhabitants of Siddhaloka and living entities who travel in outer space by airplane, all glorified the uncommon activities of Lord Vamanadev. O King, while chanting about and glorifying the Lord, they returned to their respective heavenly planets. They also praised the position of Aditi. O Maharaj Parikshit, pleasure of your dynasty, I have now described to you everything about the wonderful activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadev. Those who hear about this are certainly freed from all the results of sinful activities. And now we get to the with the purport. Paramahimna Uru Vikramato Grinano
Paramahimna Uru Vikramato Grinano
Yaparthivani Vimamesa Rajam Simartya
Yaparthivani Vimamesa Rajam Simartya
Kinjayamana Uttajata Upaiti Martya Vidyaha mantra dri krishi purashasya yasya Param, the measurement, Mahimna, of the great glories, Urvikramata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who acts wonderfully, Grinana, can count, Ya, a person who, Partivani, of the whole planet Earth, Vimame, can count, Sa, he, Rajamsi, the atoms, Martya, a human being who is subject to death, Kim, what, Jayamana, one who will take birth in the future, Uta, either, Jata, one who is already born, Upaiti, can do, Martya, a person subject to death, Iti, thus, Aha, said, Mantradrik, who could foresee the Vedic mantras, Rishi, the great saintly Vashista Muni, Purushasya, of the Supreme Person, Yasya, of whom. Translation and preparation of Prabhupada. One who is subject to death cannot measure the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Trivikram, Lord Vishnu, any more than he can count the number of atoms on the entire planet Earth. No one, whether born already or destined to take birth, is able to do this. This has been sung by the great sage Vashista. Purport. Vashista Muni has given a mantra about Lord Vishnu, Nate Vishnu Jaya Manano, Najatu Mahimna Param Anantam Abha. No one can estimate the extent of the uncommonly glorious activities of Lord Vishnu. Unfortunately, there are so-called scientists who are subject to death at every moment, but are trying to understand this by speculation, the wonderful creation of the cosmos. This is a foolish attempt. Long ago, Vashista Muni said that no one in the past could measure the glories of the Lord, and that no one can do so in the future. One must simply be satisfied with seeing the glorious activities of the Supreme Lord's creation. The Lord therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita, 10:42, Vishtabhyatam idam krishnam ekamishenastato jagat. With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. The material world consists of innumerable universes, each one full of innumerable planets, which are all considered to be products of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's material energy. Yet, this is only 1/4 of God's creation. The other 3/4 of creation constitute the spiritual world. Among the innumerable planets in only one universe, the so-called scientists cannot understand even the moon and Mars, but they try to defy the creation of the Supreme Lord and His uncommon energy. Such men have been described as crazy. Nunam pramata kurutevi karma. This is from the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam. Such crazy men unnecessarily waste time, energy and money in attempting to defy the glorious activities of Gurukrama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since there's only 2 short verses to end the chapter, I think we will do that. Translation: if one hears about the uncommon activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its various incarnations, he is certainly elevated to the higher planetary system or even brought back home, back to Godhead. Whenever the activities of Vamanadeva describing the course of a ritualistic ceremony, whether the ceremony be performed to please the demigods, to please one's forefathers in Pitriloka, or to celebrate a social event like a marriage, that ceremony should be understood to be extremely auspicious. And the purport: there are 3 kinds of ceremonies, specifically ceremonies to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead or the demigods, those performed for social celebrations like marriages and birthdays, and those meant to please the forefathers, like the Shraddha ceremony. In all these ceremonies, large amounts of money are spent for various activities, but here it is suggested that if along with this there is a recitation of the wonderful activities of Vamanadeva, certainly the ceremony will be carried out successfully and will be free of all discrepancies. Thus ended Bhaktivedanta purport of the 8th canto, 23rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Demigods Regain the Heavenly Planets. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurumiktam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Karoti Vachalam Pagum Nagati Grim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Pramanandamaravam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Vanchakalpatavidischa Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanayo Vaishnaviyo Namo Namaha. A long time ago, I was in Tallahassee, Florida. I had a preaching center there, and I was concentrated mostly on book distribution and preaching in university campus very nearby. And a professor, a religion professor, invited me to speak. It was a regular thing, and she said, it would be nice if you can speak on the Dasa Avatar, the 10 major incarnations of the Lord. And I was thinking, how is that I can get the most mileage out of this little lecture of mine? It was, the class was 90 minutes, but I was only allowed to speak for the first 40 minutes or so until they took a break, and then they came back, and then I was gone, and the professor would, I don't know, explain something else. So, as I was trying to tax my brain about this, I decided not just to read the summary of the Dasa Avatar, but actually go to the Bhagavatam and read every pastime of the different incarnation in full. And one thing I noticed was that at the end of every chapter that described a particular incarnation of the Lord, there is a benediction just like this one. If one hears about the common activities of Supreme Personality as Bhavana, one can taken to the higher planetary systems or sent back to Godhead. And there was always a benediction at the end of every chapter. So I was thinking, okay, that's it. That's how I can solve this puzzle. I will just tell the stories as they are, and they will get the benefit no matter what. It doesn't matter if they understand or not. So when I show up for the class, the first thing I did was to say, what am I about to say is going to seem a little far-fetched, unusual, imaginative. But if we are talking about the personality of Godhead, who has no limits, why not? I mean, why would God have to just sit in a cloud with a sour face and a long beard, just sending people to hell and heaven? What kind of job is that? That's simply, any bureaucrat can do that. So let's assume that God is eternally young, because that's how He likes it. He doesn't like to grow old, and He's always having fun. So hear about that. So I described, of course, because I was going very much into detail of every incarnation, the 40 minutes went by really quick, and I could see that I really grabbed the attention of the maybe 25 students that were there, and the professor. And sure enough, the bell rang. Nobody moved. So they usually would leave and go smoke a cigarette, smoke a joint, or read something, text, whatever. This was before texting, actually. And they didn't move. So I just looked at the professor and said, should I go on? Yes, by all means. So I just went on, and I took the 90 minutes. I didn't stop speaking at all. And after 90 minutes, I go to Kalki and said, okay, that's it. That's the last one. So, any questions? And there was just open mouths, nothing, no questions, no comments, nothing. They were able to suspend their disbelief for 90 minutes and hear about the uncommon activities of the Supreme Lord. So, okay, then that's it. Thank you very much. And I left. So the professor called me that same evening to thank me for showing up, and I asked her, so what happened afterwards? What did you guys talk about? There were any comments, any inquiries? And she said, well, the only thing was that when it came out of the Krishna consciousness, that little moment that they got, is that they couldn't understand how I can believe all this literally. Well, I said, I explained that before I started speaking, that if the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Lord and He wants to do whatever He wants to do, He can do it. He has the power to do it. Just like, for example, when Matsya, and the pastime of Matsya, the Lord wanted to swim. So what is he going to do? Go to some club and swim in an Olympic pool full of chlorine? No. He chooses to expand into an 8 million mile form as a fish and swim in the ocean of devastation. That's, that's his scale of things. That's how he does. What about Kurma, the tortoise incarnation? Well, he allowed the Mandara mountain to be pivoted on his back and to churn the ocean. And actually he was itching. There you go. So, the mountain relieved his itching. And also he has some jewels that he polished against the golden mountain as he was doing that. So that's what the Lord does, is fun in a very large scale. And it is difficult to believe for those who choose to live in a very small world where God should be as a projection of another human being. But our God is not limited by these kind of moral circumstances or physical, geographical circumstances or even limits of the imagination. Krishna has a potency called Satya Sankalpa. Whatever he desires is already happening. We have to struggle very hard. We have a dream or a project or an ideal, and then we have to build it up for many years and years and years, and maybe we get something out of that. But Krishna, as long as he wishes something, that is already happening. Yogamaya already arranged everything. So this is the difference between, one of the many differences between Krishna and ourselves. The ceremonies that are referred here at the very end of the chapter, like 3 types of ceremonies. Do you remember which ones there were? There are 3 types of ceremonies, come on. I got inspired Prabhu yesterday, who was drilling everybody. See, do you remember anything? Okay, name one.
To please the demigods.
To please the demigods, okay, and also that has also something else. Huh?
Social. Weddings.
No, that about pleasing the demigods. There's something within that ceremony, it's something else.
Supreme Lord?
Yes, the priest of Supreme Lord or the demigods. That's one type of ceremony. What's the other one that you were saying?
Social weddings and social ceremonies?
Yes, weddings, birthdays, and there is one more.
Forefathers.
Forefathers, yes, the Shraddha ceremony, the Pinda ceremony. Now, this is not necessary to be done. This is the Shraddha ceremony. For those who are practicing Krishna consciousness, those who are Vaishnavas, so those who are practicing Krishna consciousness seriously, with discipline, they don't need to worry. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that a Kanishta Bhagavat, devotee who is in the lowest platform, 3 generations before and after are delivered just by his practicing Krishna consciousness as a Kanishta Adhikari. And Madhyama Bhagavat, it delivers 14 generations up and down. So you don't have to worry about, great-granddad who was a pipe smoker and a drinker and all that. And for an Uttama Bhagavat, 100 generations in every direction are liberated. So this is, you don't have to worry about the Shraddha ceremony, the Pinda ceremony, this is not necessary. Once upon a time, I was in North Carolina, that's in the United States, in the East Coast, and there was a very pious doctor, Dr. Rao, from South India, who come to the temple very regularly, will contribute, with very nice family, very nice men, and his mother passed away. So he, being, a Brahmin by birth, I was used to this ritualistic approach. Not that, like Prabhupada said, we don't have to do all this puja, we can install the deities just by chanting Hare Krishna. So that's how powerful the Maha Mantra is. But he wanted to do a Shraddha ceremony for his mother. So he's supposed to do an elaborate puja and then cook some cook a feast and make some rice, and they come in the shape of balls, like almost like baseballs, and then just like the proof of a fire sacrifice was that a horse, Ashwamedha Yaga, the horse was walked through the fire, and if he came out through the fire with a new body, that was like a test of the sacrifice being well done. Yeah, but of course, eventually with the degradation of the times, they were having a barbecue because the horse never made it to the other side. So that got completely taken out of context. But in this case, the rice, the bowl of rice, that was a product of the Shraddha ceremony, should be given to cows. And if a cow eats it, then it's a sign from heaven that it's been approved. So we had 2 cows. Rohini and Devyani were the names. And Rohini ate only cooked food, and Devyani ate only raw food. So there was a good chance that Rohini would eat the rice. And we gave Rohini the rice, and she didn't want to have anything to do with it. So the doctor was very distressed because he had to wait several months in order to do the ceremony again. So he did. He did the whole puja again, he did the whole feast, and brought the rice. This time he mixed the rice with molasses, and cows go completely bananas about molasses. They really like it. So we gave the cows the rice, and the cows didn't want anything to do with it. So he was really perplexed and really upset because, meanwhile his mother was waiting somewhere in a waiting hall, reading expired magazines until she was elevated, until she went to the heavenly planets or whatever. So this time, Dr. Rao decided to invite the local Brahmins, which in this case was another brahmachari and myself also a brahmachari. Oh, we were just wet behind the ears, very, very new, and had no idea of anything. We just did whatever we were told. So the local Swami sent us to Dr. Rao's house, and he made an elaborate feast and fed us until we could no longer walk or talk coherently. And then he bathed our feet, which was extremely uncomfortable. You may, in your mind's eye, you may have an idea, oh, wouldn't it be nice to be worshipped and given garlands and, fanned, like the Lord is being fanned, your feet being washed in yogurt, and people praise your glories and all that stuff. No, I can assure you from that small experience, it is very uncomfortable. And then he gave us rice, again, to take to the cows. Because there was a river in the property too, so after the cows rejected it, he had to throw it to the river. So we were thinking, okay, here goes again, rice to the river. And we gave it to the cows, and both cows ate it, which was very unusual, because Devyani never ate anything cooked. So the doctor would call him immediately, the doctor was very happy. So this is the policy that Krishna established. You have to please the Brahmins. You have to do things through a via medium. You can't just jump over and do the puja, do the ceremonies. This is not a mechanical process. I was thinking when this girl was leading Guru Puja today, she wouldn't know music if music just drove a truck and hit her in the head. But she had so much devotion. This is what Krishna accepts from us. Me with my fancy chords, it's not happening. I'm just thinking of, how wonderful I play. But she was thinking of the pleasure of the deities. And this is how things should be done. Everything should be done for the pleasure of Krishna. Because that's the test. It's not because you want to please your fathers, your forefathers, or because you want to please this and now. You want to please yourself. That is not going to work. Because taking things in the opposite direction. We should please Krishna first. And if Krishna is pleased, everyone will be pleased. So there is no mistakes. And as we were hearing yesterday from Prabhupada's lecture in Hawaii, and I believe it was 74, that we should give people the Maha Mantra, chant Hare Krishna, and we should give them prasadam, and then go home. That's it. That's it. Philosophy is for a very selected few. It will come later. It will come later. There was a boy that I knew. There was a time in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where the temple was ransacked by the military. There was a time of military dictatorship, which was very common there, and the devotees went underground. So after a few years, I just happened to come by because I had to get my passport and whatever. So the temple was a house that was soundproof by the devotees. The devotees all had hair and, mustache or beard. Some of the women too, I imagine. And then the kirtans were very soft and everything was very, very... But there was a lunch. That the only public program we had. We had a feast on Sunday, but everything was underground. It was very difficult times. There were military posts every couple of blocks. It was really tough times. So there was a lunch every day at 12 o'clock. People who came from the street, they were served lunch, And there was one boy who came because there was a free lunch and sat down and ate every day. Didn't talk to anybody, didn't take any books, didn't ask any questions, didn't make any eye contact, and just ate and left. A whole year. But the prasadam was working its way from his stomach up to until it hit the brain somewhere. And when it hit the brain, one day, as he was eating a meal, he said, "Who are these people? Why are they so nice to me? What is this food? What do they believe in?" Just all the questions just came all at once. So he started asking questions and he got the philosophy and he became a devotee. So this is the effect. So there is something called sukriti, which is the piety that we bring from previous lives. And you can see that sometimes you may tell someone about Krishna consciousness, things that make sense, just simple as that. It's not religion, it's not philosophy, it's not a way of life, it's just common sense. Try to understand this. And it just doesn't get there. We have a woman in where we live that has been coming for years and years, and she's taking plenty of prasadam and chanted plenty of the Hare Krishna mantra and continues to be philosophically waterproof. It's just the philosophy doesn't permeate her skin, not one bit. She can't understand anything about the philosophy. And it's not that it's a dummy. She has a master's in mathematics, she's very smart. But the philosophy hasn't gotten there. And my observation is that, except in certain cases, that the devotees who are the steadiest and the most, the one who make the most advancement are those who have a philosophical basis, that they are actually convinced within their heart. It's not just a sentiment, it's not just the ecstasy that they may feel by chanting Hare Krishna, or because they like the devotees, or because they enjoy prasadam, or because even they like to serve the Lord. Of course, the ticket is devotional service. But because they have a solid, sound philosophical base, they remain in the movement and they can make quick advancement, which is very difficult because we have so many anarthas. And anarthas are like anchors, they're like ballast. The ballast keeps the balloon from floating away. And these are our anarthas, are these balas that they impede our flight back home. So as one becomes more purified and more convinced, more of a finer points of the philosophy permeate our thick head, then we can actually make swift advancement. Because it's not difficult, it's just, it depends on sincerity, but one has to be serious, as the Prabhu was noticing that Prabhupada said most of the time, not just sincerity, but seriousness. Like, people don't take the process so seriously. They're sincere, but there are so many impediments to one's advancement because one doesn't make the next step to correct what's wrong and go on. Okay, I don't want to elaborate for too long. Usually classes go on for too long in general. There is a definition of eloquence which I adhere to, which is that eloquence is that the fact that a person should stop speaking before anybody else thinks she should. So I will adhere to this principle and ask for questions or comments, which I welcome. If anybody's awake, that is.
Sometimes now I make a little service for the service for Srila Prabhupada. I make a tour guide, and most of the time the guests, they come in. And I try to explain to them in the simple way how is the real religion, the real purpose of religions is to serve God and to find God and serve God. And most of the time these people ask me, who is God? Is this little ladies in the middle of the city? It's not a lady, it's only father or giving life to everyone. And yes, my English is not really oui. La philosophie, j'explique aux invités que la vraie religion, c'est connaître Dieu et savoir que nous avons Dieu sur le cœur et comment renouer cette relation avec Dieu. Alors souvent, ils me demandent est-ce que c'est cette petite dame qui est au milieu en bleu? C'est pas une dame, mais c'est le seul mâle. Nous sommes tous féminins, donc nous sommes leaders féminins. La plupart des gens sont surpris par l'approche parce qu'ils viennent en pensant qu'ici c'est une religion indienne et le monde catholique, et ainsi de suite. La vraie religion, c'est pour aimer cette relation avec Dieu et savoir qui nous sommes et qui est Dieu.
Another question?
What is the question? What is the question?
He gives more to guess.
Yeah, I understand.
And then he tries to explain that the purpose is to serve God. And that said it's only in this female form, and he says, not in a sense we are all female. And the question would be, that is still...
Les gens qui viennent, les invités qui viennent, qui pensent que nous savons que une religion, je les explique que la religion, c'est de la relation qu'on a personnellement avec Dieu.
So he tries to explain that the real religion is to connect with God. And somehow it is not that easy. for them to
No, it isn't easy. I wouldn't even skip the part about that we are all females, because that will never get through somehow or other. Yeah, that sounds very strange, actually. So, before I met the devotee, before Krishna consciousness, I understood that there is a personal God, and my guess was that God was a female, because I saw no purpose in rainbows and sunsets and flowers and all this kind of stuff unless there was a woman involved. So I thought God must be a woman, otherwise the world will look like a bachelor's pad, not very nice. What I would explain to people is, if I were you, but of course you don't have to take my advice, you know very well what to do, is that God is seen from different perspectives by different people, but it's the same God. And the idea of fraternity, the idea that we are brothers and sisters, all of us, regardless of people having religion or no religion or whatever they belong to, is that we have the same Father, and the Father appears different to the different children. So, yes, it's not the form of the Lord, the Vigraha. It's a difficult thing to understand, but I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry. I would just leave him mature and expose him to the beauty of Krishna, and leave the philosophical details for later, after they've taken up prasad.
Yeah, but not all people who ask me about this way, really have to explain to them a little bit.
Yeah, very few. And if someone wants to know more, you just give them a book. Yes, so you're doing the right thing. I think is don't throw pearl before the swine. That's in the Bible. It's like I was reading Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was explaining why is that Srimati Radharani is not mentioned in the Bhagavatam. And he said it's not mentioned because she's the jewel. She's the object of worship of Krishna. She's the lover of Krishna. She's the most wonderful person in the whole creation. So what is the use of giving a monkey a pearl necklace? So it's the same idea. That why should we give people what they can't understand? Yes, it's like trying to show a Matisse to a blind person, or try to play Beethoven's Ninth Symphony to a deaf person. It's no use. They may feel the vibration, but they cannot understand the art in it. So, preaching has many forms. The people that come here already have a special bond, a special connection. All you can do is fan it a little bit, just make it a little brighter, and something will work. Something will work. You don't have to worry about the results of your own preaching. I can speak until the cows can come home and not get anywhere. So just give them the goodness of your heart, and they will understand that. They will say, well, I don't really understand them. I didn't really get it. All the elaborate worship and so on. But these people are so nice. And I was saying, I was talking to Mahendra Prabhu the other day, and the first thing about a place is that the bathrooms are clean. If the bathrooms are clean, the rest is going to be a lot easier to explain that we have the highest philosophy and the dirtiest bathrooms. So we should make the place revolutionary clean and beautiful, and people will actually get it. They will get it. There will be loving exchanges, and they will never forget it. Never forget it. Yeah? Prabhu.
Question about your example, how you preached in university, and the biggest kind of not miss, but like understanding that was you taking everything like literally.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of understand that many things happen not on the gross level. Like we worship Lord and that happens in the mind, so we can say, okay, it's just in the mind. It doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
Or there's many allegories in the Srimad Bhagavatam, or there's a subtle creation which still go on, so it's not really happening there. So how to connect those things which are in the level of subtle mind and so on, which still goes on. But then
I tell you what my approach is. I'm not exactly sure of the Siddhanta here, but things that do not affect my life directly, I don't have to bother with. In other words, whether Lord Brahma has 4 heads, 16 million heads, or 3 gazillion heads and only 1 neck, what's the difference to me? How does this affect my life? And if there are things that I cannot comprehend and they just defy my logic and reasoning and my limited mind. Bhakti Siddhanta again in the foreword to the Brahma Samhita said that even if you sift the entire material universe, you just sift it, you won't get the essence, you won't get Krishna out of it because of your materially contaminated mind that can only perceive matter. So this is a question you have to solve on an individual basis. If it helps you, if there are things that they constitute doubts in your mind and you need to solve them in order to continue, then you have to figure out a way to do it. I'm not really bothered by the details of the philosophy. Whether the Lord show up as a fish and as a turtle and the demigods, they do these crazy things, and it doesn't bother me at all. I think it's wonderful. It just doesn't bother me because in my daily life they don't occupy much. It's not a conundrum. I don't have to solve them every day. So people have the different tendencies and the different nature, and some may have to struggle more in order to deal with the things that are presented in the Bhagavatam. Just like I was in New Vrindavan for a 50-hour kirtan, and there was a boy who told me he joined 10 years ago, and he's been initiated, he's been chanting, he's been following the principles, but he had doubts about the theory of evolution. So he did some research, because so many people, so many billions of people believe in evolution, there must be some credibility to it. So he took the time, very, very smart, he took the time to research it on his own and find what he called overwhelming evidence that the theory of evolution holds water, that is actually true. Which presents a problem, because if the theory of evolution is correct, the Bhagavatam is wrong. So this is what happens when you take care of things that you shouldn't take care of. Because how does the theory of evolution affect your daily practice of devotional life? It really doesn't. Whether you came from human parents or monkey parents, it doesn't make any difference. You are actually practicing Krishna consciousness now, so that's not really important. And in his case, I try to explain to him that it's really not that relevant. And if you lose faith in the Bhagavatam, it's because Maya is covering your eyes. Because this is the story of a Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees. And so you can surround yourself with that kind of company, or with the company of people who are antagonistic or doubtful or curious, which is not going to help your spiritual life. So when there are things that are subtle, as you call it, or things like, for example, that the Brahmana that in his mind was offering sweet rice and put his finger, and actually his finger was burned. You know, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. This is, you know, maybe defined by the Western liturgy as a miracle, and that's fine. We do fine with miracles. The problem with miracles is that, in general, in other traditions, they're not given an explanation. You know, why it happened. How it happened, yes. Why it happened, no. So miracles are simply an excuse to remain in ignorance. In Krishna consciousness, we don't take that, you know, very seriously. Like miracles happen all the time. I mean, you must have experienced hundreds of miracles in your life where Krishna actually intervened. Even simple stuff, even very simple stuff that you say is not possible. This couldn't have happened unless Krishna intervened and made it possible. So
basically, it's like those students couldn't take the face value and accept it as that they really believe this stuff, you know.
well, because they've
It's similar.
been
Take
brainwashed.
step further, and you just take those things which are valuable or useful to thee, and then don't bother with that part of Srimad Bhagavatam which kind of raises doubts to you. Is it real or is it just out there?
Yeah, we both have the process seems very similar for both of us, but one is going upwards and the other is going downwards. You know, so it's like if you may be driving a wonderful, brand new car. You know, you have the right clothes and, you know, designer sunglasses, and you just got a €150 hairdo and a manicure, and you're just waving at everyone from your wonderful car, but you're going in the wrong direction. So eventually you have to come back to the same point where you started and go in the opposite direction. So this is what the world civilization is doing. Looks like they're doing it's wonderful. You know, we even become jealous of their situation, but they're going in the opposite direction. They will have to come back to the same point where we were at and go in the right direction. Whereas the Buddhists, you know, they may be struggling with a beat-up old van that belongs to the temple, and you know, there's running out of gas, and the devotee is caught up with a fire extinguisher which is empty, and you know, all that stuff. But they're going in the right direction. So Krishna will correct all these discrepancies. So the students, for 90 minutes they were able to suspend their disbelief, and they were just as attentive as any student of the Bhagavatam is. And then Maya came back. Just like you see devotees, that they practice Krishna consciousness for several decades, and then they leave a hole, and Maya comes in and takes them away. Of course, there is no loss and diminution for the devotees, so Krishna will bring them back somehow or other. Just like it is just apparent that this is not our first try at Krishna consciousness. I don't think any of us started in this lifetime, but we had a few tries before, and now we are doing another try. We just let Maya slip in, and she took us away, and we had to take another birth and try again. So how many tries we have left? Huh? Depends on you. So these students, they got their first taste. Now depends how sincere they are and how serious they are, and they will turn the car around and come to the right, the starting point, and start again. All we can do is to try to help each other. And I thought that was the best help I could give him, because at the end of every story of the incarnation of the Lord is ample benedictions that they don't even depend on your effort. You go back to God, and his family will be relieved. There will be no famine. It will be just happiness, glory, the opulence of the Lord. Heavenly planets ruling for generations. Health and all that stuff, which ultimately is all useless because it has to be given up. Because ultimately you have to get through customs in the spiritual world, and all this stuff that you got as benedictions are useless. You can't carry them with you. Sorry, you can't carry your water bottle with you. Yeah, well, in the spiritual world, there's a little more strict than that. Sorry, you got some little lust there, or got a little greed. Yeah, your family is, it's not really your family. You're not the body. That kind of thing. So eventually, we all have to get to the point of being detached, but not just detached, we have to be attached to Krishna. Because detachment is not the ultimate goal. Detachment is just a tool. You get rid of stuff in order to get something else. But if you don't have the taste, then it won't work.
I have to admit that, for example, listening to Chaitanya Bhagavat, many times you listen to the chapter and just wait for the end of the chapter where the benediction comes. That you will achieve, you will get the pure devotion, like, oh.
Interesting.
Observation.
I was with Bhakti Vigyan Goswami in Ukraine a few years ago, and he's a good astrologer. I didn't know that, and he asked for my birth information, and then he looked at the chart and said, "You should stop thinking about liberation." Yeah, that was his advice. Don't worry about liberation. I guess liberation is a resource is the focus of someone who is suffering. I want to be freed from all that. Yeah, and who can say I'm not suffering? Anybody? Maybe it's just me. Anybody? So we're all suffering, one way or another. We are actually suffering with our bodies, or with our minds, or with natural phenomena, or by the misery caused by other living entities, flies everywhere, devotees. Yeah, there's a special misery. Because the devotees, they push you to the limit. You see, once I was giving a lecture in a Bhagavatam class in Vrindavan, and a devotee asked me at the end of the class, how can you get rid of your false ego? And I said, do you live in the temple? Yeah. No. The people living with you are actually helping you mostly, because they are actually pushing your buttons. They are actually making you give up your false ego. As long as you continue in the association of devotees are very expert at pointing out what's wrong with you. So, but they do it in a good spirit. I mean, you have to see it. You have to pass that barrier of, he's mean to me or she's mean to me. They're actually trying to help you out. They may not know that, but they are. Okay, so it's time. Thank you very much. Shri Radha Gopinath Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Betty, right? No,
Because the French is like 6 bad fish. Bad fish?
Lebanese. No, there is a thing in shell here, but he didn't put it. Yes, most of the time, everybody says to me, you speak so slow, but we didn't understand. Yes, it's my nature.
Because then it's not stable, financially stable. That's the thing, people work together, it's much more easy if you're one and love, it doesn't make sense. Some of this disease. It's beautiful. It's not nice. Oh yeah, there's something. I started with drawing lessons. Oh, nice. First lesson. No, I was looking at you. And he was explaining what to do. And he said, I can draw. I practice on it. Good guidance. So he's good guidance. He's good coaching. You see how this when you have guidance, it comes with it. What's it? Yeah. That's all I feel. She's not, you have to insert Krishna consciousness in them. Yes, you can understand this. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You see, that's the Krishna has to get to. That's amazing. Yeah. You say you can one ask to whom you pray. She knows. Oh, she knows. She knows who she is. She calls God. She is doing that. She knows. Okay. Just be nice to them. If you're also being rich man. Just think about it. Krishna is always doing things for good reason. Because she's not hysterical, at the same time she's philosophical, and she's some fun for the life. I mean, it's not, it can be the best time of the day to Krishna conscious point of view. She understands things deeply, everything is okay. And yes, she also has this feeling, so you know, there's a whole yes, but it was she knows that he does everything with all the big hours on the call. I mean, she's not. I should not talk about her. She's not. She's further than all I was at the same. Yes, because she's troubles and some troubles as well. She has a big soul. The other one hasn't. Probably she's just looking for music to get over. So I think it's good for everybody. I mean, you can explain it, but every Christian is perfect. We just don't know. We just don't know how things are going to unfold. So there's a solution for everything. The real thing is to actually be happy forever. Not to have this kind of situation of ups and downs and dangers and failures. And Krishna is trying to get us out of it. And then we should take the listener. Take the opportunity. There are really some good things that are give us some strength. Krishna, she's not the one. She's a protagonist. I think it's completely you were forced out of the house and they were forced out of it's also something good. It's something the suffering is not the solution. So she will go on to There's a good